to our next edition of the CBB Review Studio podcast. I am Dan Siegel, joined by Ariel Puterman. We are doing Stock Up, Stock Down today here on Christmas Eve, December 24th. A little bit of a quiet spot in college basketball. Which teams, conferences, coaches, etc. are trending up? Which ones are trending down? Ariel, let's get right into it. So who is your first stock up?
Yeah, my first stock up has to be the Drake Bulldogs. I mean, what a story. One of the 4 undefeated teams remaining, the only mid-major team, only non-SEC team, actually. I think a lot of people weren't expecting them to be this good. You lose Darian and Tucker DeVries. You bring in Ben McCullum, one of the most successful power or Division II coaches of all time, and they've hit the ground running. They have 3 wins against Power 5 schools. Now those schools are Vanderbilt, Miami, and K-State, so not a lot to hang your head on, but still impressive wins nonetheless. And they're very capable of running the table. Missouri Valley's good, but this team is better. Bennett Sturz has been unbelievable. I would buy all the stock you can in Drake right now. They've looked really impressive so far.
Yeah, totally agree. Like Ben McCullum has basically, and his guys, a lot of his Division II guys have proven that they are legit. They're ballers up at that D2 level. So it's great to see. My stock up is going to be the UConn Huskies. UConn had a tough Maui Invitational a few weeks ago. They went 0-3. They lost to Memphis. They lost to Colorado. They lost to Dayton. But since then, they've picked it back up. They've won 6 straight. They're back to being a clear top 25 team at 10-3, 2-0 in Big East play. They've recently picked up road wins over road win at Texas, a win over Baylor, a win over Gonzaga. They're still struggling to defend mightily in the half court. They're giving up a lot of open threes, but Alex Caravan has been steady. Liam McNeely has emerged as the freshman. And even if they are not the same as 2 years ago, and last year especially, they're still definitely trending in the right direction as of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you just can't bet against Danny Hurley at this point. If you did so, then that's on you. My first stock down, let's go that way. I'm going to go with the ACC as a whole. I mean, when you just look at the standings, Duke looks great. Everyone else, not so much. UNC's had a down year. They're 7-5, and they were pretty close to losing to UCLA and going 6-6 there. Clemson looked like the clear number 2 for a little bit. They dropped 2 games in a row. Pittsburgh's lost some bad games. SMU technically looks like the number 2, but they haven't really picked up those impressive wins. Then you just look at the bottom of the conference. I mean, it's bad. Georgia Tech looks terrible. Miami has lost 8 in a row. Syracuse looks down. Virginia, obviously, having their struggles without Tony Bennett. So this is an 8-team conference, and realistically, we're looking at 3 to 5 bids. Not a good percentage, and that's being generous. I really am down on the ACC this year.
Yep. Just like football, they're following suit, like SEC going up, everyone else, especially the ACC, going down. For my stock down, I'm going to go into the Big Ten. I'm going to go with Rutgers, and they're getting a lot of attention, right? And rightfully so. You know, they're super fun. They have Dylan Harper. They have Ace Bailey. But here's the problem. They're not actually winning a lot of games. They're actually 7-5. They just lost to Princeton. They also have a loss in their resume to Kennesaw State. I mean, Dylan Harper, like I said, he's awesome. Ace Bailey, he's good as well. He has his flaws. And then outside of those two, there's really nothing at all. And I'm planning to cover them for CBB Review next week. They're playing Columbia. I'm expecting an electric crowd, right? Because they're just so fun and they have Dylan Harper. But I want to see Dylan Harper in the tournament, and that might be too much to ask for the way we're trending right now. So Rutgers definitely a stock down.
I will stick in the mid-majors for my next stock up and go Santa Clara, a team that no one's really talking about, is under a lot of people's radars, and for a good reason. I mean, they started 2-4. They had losses to North Dakota State. They lost by 26 to Nevada. But then ever since then, they've been red hot. They've won 5 straight. They beat McNeese, who's one of the top mid-major programs, or at least should have been. We'll get to that later. And Bradley, another top team in the Missouri Valley. This was a team a lot of people thought would compete with Gonzaga. And while I don't think they're anywhere near that right now, I think they're emerging as a top 2 WCC team, maybe even better than St. Mary's. I would keep an eye on this team. I think they have a lot of talent, a lot of potential. And yeah, stock up-wise, I think they're a perfect candidate.
Yeah, and for sure, like they definitely had a a rough first couple games, but for sure they're definitely trending up. I'm going to stay out west and stay in mid-major land for my next stock up. I'm going UC San Diego. UC San Diego out of the Big West, they started the year 2-2. They lost to a good San Diego State team and a pesky Seattle team, and now they have 9 straight wins. They are 11-2 on the year. This includes a win over UC Santa Barbara on the road. That's a decent win. James Madison, LaSalle in a neutral site. I mean, last Tuesday was the big thing. They went on the road and they beat a very good Utah State team. This is a team who's very aggressive. UC San Diego, a lot of ball pressure. They turn the ball. They turn teams over nearly 1/4 of possessions. That is the 4th highest rate nationally in turnover defense. They're top 100 in offense, top 100 in defense. It was supposed to be all UC Irvine in the Big West, but UC Irvine's lost a couple games recently. They've struggled a bit offensively. They took a bad loss to Duquesne last Saturday. It's not just UC Irvine's world. It's UC San Diego and UC Irvine in whatever order at 1A, 1B in the Big West. And they'll be playing each other pretty early in January. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. So my stock up, UC San Diego.
Yeah, don't sleep on the Big West. A lot of really talented teams out there. Don't get a lot of attention because their games start so late, but a lot of good teams that might surprise teams in March. My next stock down is going to unfortunately be the Purdue Boilermakers, team that I thought would pretty much run away with the Big Ten. Obviously, it's a pretty tight conference, but I thought they just had the upper hand. And early on, it looked like that. They started 7-1. They had those wins against Alabama and Ole Miss. Ever since then, they're 1-3. Including that 18-point loss to Auburn on Saturday, which really looked more like a 30-point loss, and they kind of cut it down at the end. The depth just isn't there. Braden Smith looks great, obviously. Trey Kaufman-Renz look great. Fletcher Lawyer's a decent third option, but then after that just falls off. They could really use Daniel Jacobson down in the post. They really haven't been able to stop any rim protection, anything like that, and guys like Miles Colvin and Cam Heide just haven't stepped up like they've wanted them to, so we'll see how things go when Big Ten play starts, but right now they just don't look like the best team in the Big Ten, which a lot of people thought they would be.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams that are right around that Purdue range in the Big Ten. So it's very realistic they go like 11-9, 12-8, 13-7-ish. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility. For my stock down, I'm going to go with St. Louis. St. Louis out of the Atlantic 10. This is a team that a lot of people were expecting a lot from. We start with last year and how disappointing last year was. They fire Travis Ford. They went out. They get Josh Schertz from Indiana State. Home run hire for St. Louis. Schertz brings Robbie Avila and Isaiah Swope, among others, with him. And once again, this season, it's looking like we will not see Robbie Avila in the tournament, unfortunately. And that stinks, right? But this team, like last year, cannot defend for their life. And they are 6-6 with not a great strength of schedule. And for Josh Schertz's sake, like I'll give him a pass. It's his first year. It's not like it's the beginning of his first year. It's not like he's expected to go in there and win the A10 necessarily, but they have certainly not met the expectations that the public has given them. And a lot of A10 teams, we talked about Loyola trending down, but a lot of A10 teams are looking really good. So I don't know if St. Louis is really a top 4 team in this conference, a true talent. Resume, definitely not, but even in true talent.
Yeah, I will end things off for our stock up with the Georgetown Hoyas, who a lot of people thought would be a bottom feeder once again. Obviously, a disastrous season last year. A lot of talk about Ed Cooley, a lot of hate from the Providence fans, obviously, but he's come back this year and really turned things around so far. They're 2-0 to start conference play. They just beat a good Creighton team by 24 as well. Jay Epps looks great. Thomas Schwarber, Micah Peavy, Malik Mack, all of them producing when they need to. And Big East is down as a whole. Obviously, the top 3 is probably going to remain the same of UConn, Marquette, and St. John's. But that 4th team in the Big East is wide open. And I think Georgetown's shown so far that they have a serious chance of being that 4th team. And who knows, they can even make the tournament if they're a top 4 team in the conference. So buy some stock in Georgetown. They've looked good so far.
Yeah, when Georgetown is good, college basketball is better. That's just my opinion. My stock up, I'm going to go with Rasheer Fleming. So staying in the A10, we're going to go with the St. Joe's big in Rasheer Fleming. And we talk about St. Joe's, and the story of them was their backcourt. Eric Reynolds, Xavier Brown. And that was, despite coaching, going to be what was going to carry them to a pretty good season and kind of raise some eyebrows. But it's actually been Rasheer Fleming that has led the team in scoring, in rebounding. He's got 17 and 9 averaging on the year. He's ultimately the best pro prospect as well. He's kind of emerged as a late first, probably early second round pick in terms of value, but top 50 prospect for sure in the NBA draft, I would say. And he's been an animal in the post for pretty much his entire career. This year, he's also really improved his 3-point shot. It's gone up from like low 30s, 32.4% last year to nearly 40% this year. And the last 5 games in specific, this is why I put him in the stock up category. Last 5 games, he scored 25 points 3 times.
Yep, St. Joe's against St. Louis next Saturday. So keep an eye out for that one to talk about 2 of Dan's teams. My last stock down team is going to be those teams, those mid-major one bid programs that always seem to make it. If you're a March Madness fan that doesn't follow college basketball during the regular season, you're probably not watching this. But if you are, then there's a couple teams that you know just from seeing them every year. One of those teams is Vermont. They've been really awful to start the season, really 6-8 so far. And it's not like they're just losing to a bunch of those high major teams. They've lost to Iona, they've lost to Fairfield, they've lost to Merrimack. They just are coming off a 30-point loss to Dartmouth. So very reasonable that we see a new team coming out of the American East. The other one is Colgate. It seems like out of the Patriot, they're the top team every year, and they're 3-10 to start the season. That's the worst record in the Patriot. And they have losses to Sam Houston, Northeastern, and Drexel. The other one is Charleston. Charleston's look good. They're 9-3, but they do have a 38-point loss to Rhode Island and a 21-point loss to Liberty. So things could definitely turn around. Hopefully the Christmas break will get them back on track. But so far, not looking good. And then one more other one, which hasn't been a tournament staple, but a team that a lot of people thought would dominate the mid-major ranks, and that's McNeese. They're only 6-5, and they've lost a couple games they should have won. So a lot of surprises out of there. Chemistry just hasn't looked as good as people think. A lot of time to turn around. The Southlands, obviously a lot weaker than some of the other teams they've played, but pretty surprising team down there.
Yes, and America East is one of my favorite low major leagues. I'm really hoping UMass Lowell maybe could finally make the tournament because they always seem to be like that number 2, number 3 team. Vermont just wins that league every year. So it's something to keep an eye out for. They're probably the favorite at this point. My last stock down is going to be Jerome Tang, the Kansas State head coach. And when he got the job at Kansas State 3 off seasons ago, he went on to make the Elite Eight. He was a 3 seed. So a good regular season, a very good postseason, and he looks brilliant. I mean, he catches lightning in a bottle, essentially. But last year, they disappointed because of a poor non-conference. And this year, it's pretty much the same thing now. Heading into conference play, they're 6-5 overall. They most recently lost to Wichita State by 19, which we all predicted, I think. And it's certainly getting more difficult as we head into Big 12 play. I mean, this is what could be an ugly year for the Wildcats. I'm talking like 12, 14 wins on the season, given how good the Big 12 is. I'm not saying Jerome Tang is a bad coach either, but he certainly isn't being viewed the same way as he was a couple years ago. And that is why more like the last couple of years and less even the last couple of weeks, it's just his stock as a entity in college basketball has certainly gone down. So that will do it for today's edition of the CB Review Studio podcast. Everyone have a Merry Christmas. Have a happy holidays. We will churn out more content heading into the new year. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and take care.